Hey guys, Carl from Purple Misplaced. Today I'm taking a preview look at a prototype copy of the upcoming game Shallow Regrets from designer Judson, Cowan, and publisher Button Shy Games. This is a unique one, I think probably the first of its kind from Button Shy Games, in that this is a sort of small companion game to a larger big box game that has already been published by a different publisher, in this case by Judson Cowan's publishing company specifically, or maybe just self-published. I'm sorry, I don't know enough about the details of the publishing company. But the point is, if you're coming here from Deep Regrets, Button Shy Games is a company that makes small 18-card wallet games, and in this case they've worked with Judson himself to design a small 18-card sort of push your luck semi-open drafting card game. Now this game does also have as an expansion a solo mode designed by Mike Mullins, who is a name you will have heard from other solo modes from Button Shy Games. So quickly, disclaimer, as a preview sort of a prototype copy of the game, I was given advance access to that prototype for this video, but as always I will do my best to give you my own honest opinion of what I've seen so far. With that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays with that Mike Mullins solo expansion, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a game of Shallow Regrets using the Fisher and the Frod solo expansion, begin first by taking the 18 fish cards, shuffling them together, and then placing them out into a grid of 6 piles, 3 across and 2 down. Making sure that there are at least 3 small shadows visible on tops of the shoals. And the small shadows are these with 0 value. So there are currently 4 small shadows. We are okay. Next, we're going to take the deck of 6 Frod cards. Now it's worth pointing out here that this solo expansion is a print and play copy that I've made myself, giving those a good shuffle, and I will stick those out here like that as well, giving myself some space for a discard pile. And with that, we are all set up for the solo game of Shallow Regrets, again with the Fisher and the Frod solo mode expansion. So this game is going to play out over a series of rounds, starting with myself followed by Frod, my opponent. And on my turn, I am going to catch a fish from the shoals, or at least attempt to catch a fish. And to do that, I'm going to draw 2 cards from the top of any of these 6 shoals, either 2 from the same location or 2 from separate locations. And then from the 2 cards that I've chosen, I'm going to choose up to one of those cards to catch, and then anything that I didn't catch means the other card plus the first card if I choose not to catch anything or can physically not catch anything, and throw them back into the shoals. And the way that catching works is, in order for me to catch a fish, I need to have a number of fish hooks in the cards that I've already caught equal to or higher than the value of the card that I'm trying to catch. So at the current time, I have no cards, means I have 0 fish hooks, means I can only catch a fish of 0 difficulty. And you'll see at the bottom of each of these cards, the size of the fish is going to give me a good idea or a decent idea of what kind of difficulty might come out. So these cards that are 0s will definitely be 0 difficulty, which means if I choose any of those right now, I can catch them. These cards here that are marked 3 to 5 will be a difficulty of 3 to 5, which means currently if I drew one of those cards, I couldn't catch it anyway because I don't have 3 to 5 hooks in my tableau. And then after choosing a fish to catch, I will throw back the rest. Throwing them back means I'm placing them back into the shoals. And the way that that works is first, if any of the shoals are empty, I must throw back to that empty location. If there are no locations that are empty, I can choose where to throw back to, except that I can never cover a small shadow. So I can never place a card on top of a card of 0 value. I can only cover larger things on the board. And then in later turns, you'll see in just a minute, at the beginning of my turn, before drawing cards from the shoals, some of the cards that I've caught, or some of the fish that I've caught, may have abilities on them that I can trigger in order to give myself some kind of special ability. And beyond that, as far as how winning the game goes, I'm going to hold off for a minute until you start seeing some of the fish and what the fish are and what the fish do. Same thing for Frod. He will also be catching fish and using abilities, but he works in a slightly different way. So let me take my first turn first so that some of those cards are already out on the table for you to understand better what I'm talking about. And then I will explain sort of how winning works, how scoring works, how Frod's turn works, and so on. So I get to draw 2 cards. And of course, I don't want to take these 3 to 5 because I can't catch them anyway. So let's go ahead and take this card right here and this card right here. And if I got lucky, I didn't. These are both green cards. And you'll see here on the green cards that they are marked foul. Foul are things that we don't necessarily want to be catching. They are both difficulty 0, which means I can choose either of these cards to catch. You'll also see in the top left corner are a couple of other things. These are the number of hooks that this card will give me for catching things later. So this foot is great because it gives me a 2 strength, which means I can start catching bigger, stronger things. Except this yellow value in the top left corner is the score that that card is going to give me at the end of the game. So this is worth 1 point. This is worth -1 point. But this gives me 2 hooks and this one only gives me 1. In addition, I mentioned abilities before. This foot will give me a one-time ability that will allow me to give this fish to another player. So basically, I could use this to catch something big and then get rid of it later, which may actually not be a bad thing. And this massive eyes here has the ability that says I can look at all of the cards in one shoal and put them back in any order I choose to. And it is worth 1 point. But I also mentioned that this is foul. In a multiplayer game, at the end of the game, whoever has the most foul fish in their hand will score a -2 points. Now in the solo game, Frod will never score negative points based on that. If Frod has the most foul fish, or if we're tied for the most foul fish, Frod doesn't lose points. So if I have the most foul fish, I will lose -2 points. But otherwise, if I don't have the most, we're either tied or Frod has the most, that will mean basically it's just a wash. I don't lose the -2. So it's still great because I don't lose the -2, but it won't be a split of 4 points. It will only be a split of 2. In any case, I think I'm going to take this foot, using those hooks to hopefully catch something big later, and then try my best to pass it off to Frod. Not try my best, it's easy. I just have to use the ability to pass this off to Frod later. So I will take that foot into my tableau, and then I need to throw this back. Remembering that I can't cover any of the other zeros, so I'm going to place it here or here. I'll place it down here at the middle and hope that I remember that that was a foul fish right here at the bottom. Now, Frod's turn. On Frod's turn, they will also have the ability to activate one of those abilities, but again, they have no cards in their tableau, so they can't. You'll see in just a minute their abilities work slightly differently, but in any case, there are no abilities right now, so Frod does nothing except turning over 1 card. And looking at Frod's cards, we're going to see a couple of things. You'll now see on the next turn, this is the ability that Frod will use, assuming they have a card in their hand that has an ability printed on it. So Frod will sort of tap or rotate the card in their tableau, not this card, that has an ability on it. But instead of triggering the ability on that card, they will trigger this ability instead. So on the next turn, I will see that they're going to exhaust my leftmost fish. And exhaust means I won't have the ability to use that ability anymore. So that is a little bit of a worry unless Frod right now catches a fish that doesn't have an ability. Sorry. The other thing you'll see on here is a reminder of what happens next. First, Frod is going to try and go fishing in this bottom left corner if they can afford to pay for the fish there. Now, in the case of, say, a 3 to 5 valued card, I don't know what that value is, but we're going to assume that it's the lowest value. So he would have to have at least 3 hooks in order to catch a 3 to 5 card. In this case right now they don't, but we will start in that space of the shoals, and if they cannot catch that fish, they will move to the next one and so on. And then again, coming back to that location, they're going to move a card from that location to the next location as if they were throwing back. So let me show you how that works right now. First things first, and slightly re-expressing what I expressed before, Frod will always try to catch the biggest fish they can starting from that location based on the hook. So right now they have 0 hooks, they can only catch zeros. So starting from the location where they're starting here, the biggest fish they can catch is 0, so they will catch this fish. This flips over, And here we go. This is a non-foul fish, which is fair, 0. It does give him 1 hook, and it does have an ability, which means on the next turn they will exhaust my leftmost fish, which is going to be a problem because that is my foot, which I want to get rid of and give to him. And if they exhaust it, then I can't use that ability. Then the next thing that they're going to do is simulating throwing a card back. They're going to move a card. So we're going to start with the target shoal, which is this one right here. They're going to move the card clockwise. Well, first they're going to only draw a card if there is more than 1 card in that location, which there is right now. So they will move that card. And they're going to move clockwise to the next empty location. There are no empty shoals right now. So it's going to move 1 location. Now in the case of Frod moving, they are allowed to cover the 0 values. So I am going to put that there, like that. And I am a little bit worried. That is the end of Frod's turn. So I can either use this right now to take one of these, but that means I'm keeping this foul foot here. Or I can pass it off to him, giving him the -1 and the foul card. But it means then that I can only fish for a 0. But I think I'm going to do that. So I turn this to activate it, giving it to him. It stays activated, so he doesn't get to activate that moving forward. And then I go fishing, which means I can't pick anything but a 0. So let's try this middle one and this one here. Okay, they're both fair. They're both worth 1 point. The octopus has no hooks. The lamprey has 1. The lamprey gives me an ability to draw an additional card on my turn, so I have 3 to catch from instead of 2. The octopus here says that I can swap this fish for another player's 0 difficulty fish. So I could end up trading it for something else that's worth points, but realistically that's not great. I'm going to put that back. I can't cover any of the 0s, so I will put it back there. And I will take the lamprey like that. It gives me a hook. It lets me draw extra cards. I'm okay with that. It won't let me draw extra cards because right now on Frod's turn, he's going to exhaust that card, which exhausts my leftmost fish. So now that card's been exhausted like that. He flips another card, which says he's taking this, no, he's taking the highest level card he can, which is 3 right now, starting here. So he'll take that card right there, which is an oarfish, worth 2 points. It is fair, 1 hook. Says this turn draw 2 additional cards, but for Frod that doesn't matter. Then starting here, if there are more than 2 cards, that's going to go to the next empty space, which is right there. That's a little bit of a problem. Now, looking at the next Frod turn, they do have an ability to activate. They're going to shuffle all of the cards in the shoal, remove 1 from the game, and deal the rest back out into 6 piles. So that's not horrible. It's just going to randomize things for me. Problem is he's got a whole lot of hooks. Giving him that foot may have been a mistake. My turn. I don't have any abilities. I have 1 hook. So I might as well try my best to take one of these 1 to 2s. I might fail though, if they're both 2 difficulty, but I think I need to try. And they are not. Okay, so we've got a moray eel, which is worth 2 points, gets me a hook. No abilities may affect you until your next turn. That could be very nice as defense. Here's the giant octopus. I can't take it because it is 2 difficulty, 2 points. Swap this fish for another player's fair fish. So I could end up swapping this for something really big, but right now I can't. That goes back. I'll take the moray eel. Frod's turn again. Means this gets activated like that. These all get shuffled together. Removing 1 card at random from the game, which was a 3 to 5. That's sad. And then we're going to deal the rest of the cards out into 6 shoals again. Like that, and Frod then flips their next card, aiming for the largest they can catch, which is anything with 4 right now. Starting here and going around means they take this 3 to 5, which is a great white shark, worth 3 points, which would, if I had it, say, add 3 hooks to my strength. That would be amazing, but he's got it. Then again, starting here, there is more than one card there. They will move that. And there's no empty space, so they're simply moving it one space to the left, like that. And my turn, but first things first, on their next turn, they do have an ability. It says, next turn, I may not catch any fair fish. All right, I'm not super thrilled by that. I could block it with my eel, but I'm worried what happens if he gets something even scarier in the future, but that's fine. I'm gonna block it and see what happens. And I get to take 2 cards. I'm gonna take this one and this one. Ooh, we got a foul and a fair. Ooh, here's that giant octopus, which could be great, because it could mean I could steal something nicer from him. And here is a mermaid. This is foul, 2 points and a hook. It says peek at the top card of 3 shoals. That would be nice to have the extra hook. Then I have 3. Then we tie, but this one will let me steal something big from him, even if I don't have hooks. I think I have to take that. This goes back. There's nothing empty. I can put it wherever I want. Let's hide something big. How about that one like that? Yes, now this card should have been placed in front of me to let me know that I can't catch any fair fish, but I did block it with the moray eel, so it didn't come over. Actually, that's not true. It should happen right now. So he would be using this right now by turning this card, but he can't because I blocked it. Yes, so that stays. Then he takes another card. Starting here, getting the biggest one, which is this 3 to 5, which is a sailfish. 3 points. Exhaust 1 foul fish controlled by another player. Wow, he's got a lot of points. 3, 6, 7, 8, -1, 7. I've only got 5 points so far, and I still only have 2 hooks. Then starting here, there's only 1 card. Here, there's only 1 card. Here, he's moving a card to that empty space. And on the next turn, he's got Dynamite, which says, I'm going to select a non-empty shoal, give the top card to Frod, and remove the others from the game. I don't mind that if I give him this 0 and remove nothing. So that's cool. I'm going to hold on to this because he might get something even cooler later that he doesn't have yet. And I'm going to look at these 2 cards here and here. Oof, they're both foul, but that's okay because he still has 1 foul already. There's a Selkie worth 3 points that gets me a hook. And I can swap this for another player's fish. Ooh, which could be cool. And the Ever Squid, which is 2 points and no hook, says I'm exhausting a fair fish controlled by another player. That prevents them from using an ability, but doesn't really help me. I will keep the Selkie. Because if I can swap both of those for better things and get rid of a foul card, that would be nice to do. All right, then his turn. Nope. Yes, I already threw back. His turn, he turns that card sideways, which means I'm selecting a non-empty shoal. I will give him this card, which is a -1 rotten fish. Ha ha ha. It does have an ability. It does give him more hooks, but he doesn't need more hooks at the moment anyway. It is foul as well. You can keep that rotfish. Others were removed, but there were no others. Then, turning this over, starting here, he's going to draw the biggest one, which is this card right here, which is a Kelpie. It's worth 4 points, but it's foul. If I got it, it would let me flip the top card of each shoal face up so I could see what they are. I do need 4 hooks to catch it, but I don't anymore because he caught it. I might steal that, actually. And then starting here, that's 1 card, that's 1 card, that's 1 card, that's 1 card, that's not. So that gets moved there. All right. Then my turn, I'm going to use this Selkie and swap it for another player's fish. So I'm going to take the Kelpie and he's going to take that Selkie. So that's exhausted. He gets it exhausted, but I get this as non-exhausted. I think It says, whenever a fish is exhausted or whenever a player gains an exhausted fish, it must be placed in their column, overlapping any existing fish. Whenever a player gains a non-exhausted fish, it must be placed in their row to the right of any existing fish. But let me double check. Yes, it would seem that that's the case. Okay, then I take my real turn. I'm gonna look at these 2-1-2s. They are both foul. They are worth 2 points each. Mermaid gets me an extra hook, which doesn't matter now because there's nothing but zeros left. Peek at the top card of 3 shoals. Here, again, exhaust 1 fair fish controlled by another player. Doesn't really hurt me. All right, then I will take the mermaid just because it does give me an extra card. I'm running out of space here. Let's just do this like that. He still has more fouls than me. Chum Bucket is going to activate like that. Says, I must throw back a fish or give it to Frod. I'm going to throw back this lamprey because it's worth only 1 point. All right, then Frod takes their turn. Starting here, going for the biggest one, which is this foul ever squid. None of them have more than 1 card, so that is that. Vacant Stare says, next turn, I can't exhaust any fish. All right, but we're not in any kind of concern right now. My turn. I am going to use the giant octopus. Says swap this fish for another player's fish, so I'll swap that to take the sailfish, but it is already exhausted, so that's that. Then I'm going to use the Kelpie. Says flip the top card of each shoal face up. So now I get to see what I'm doing. Because the game will end when everything's been caught, so yay. Which means it doesn't really matter what I take. One of these, I will take this one. And I'll look at this one. Then I'm throwing this back. I will put it there. No, there, because that way if it starts here, they'll take that. If they start here, it'll take that. The only way this gets picked is if it starts there. All right, so Frod is first going to activate a card, which says, I can't exhaust any fish. So this is going to go here. I can't exhaust any fish. These cards get reshuffled for Frod's turn. He draws this one, starting in this top corner. He takes that card like that. And next time they're going to dynamite. All right, then nothing gets moved because they're all singles. My turn. I'm drawing 2 things. I will take the day octopus. Let me check something. Is this 2 a 0? No, that's a 1. Okay. And this 2 is also at level 2, so there's nothing I want to swap for. I take the day octopus. And let's say I picked this up and I threw it back right where it was. This goes away like that. He is going to dynamite. Which means I get to choose something. Give the top card to Frod, which is a 0, fine with me. And remove the others from the game. There aren't any. It's his turn. He takes this card like that. And we are all finished with our play. We need to add up the scores. And I think I got trounced. He got way more cards than me. So adding up my score, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Again, 4 and 3 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I can't count. So I've got 13 points. He's got more foul than me, so I don't lose the -2, but he also doesn't change from that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. -2 is 12. Wait a minute. -1, and that 2 cancels. So we've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I actually did win by 1 point. Yay, that is the end of the game. Now this was sort of the easiest difficulty mode. I just want to point that out. There are 3 things that you can sort of modify or change in the game to up the difficulty. There is the unwashed ability which says if Frod catches the most foul fish, he gains 3 points. But if I catch the most, I still lose 2. So in that case, I still want to lose the most foul fish, starting with a -2 and then hopefully getting enough points to counteract that. Another option or switch that can be switched is overeager, which makes Frod go first. And finally, the last one is rotten, which says during setup, you place the rot fish in Frod's column of exhausted fish. The rot fish being the -1 here means they start with 2 hooks already and prevent me from getting the ability that makes somebody give a fish to me. So those are the 3 difficulty switches. Now is where I like to take a look at components. First things first, this is a prototype. You can see the PMP is my PMP for the solo. The other is not button shy quality, as this is a prototype copy, but button shy quality is always amazing quality of cards, so I don't need to worry about that. Let me show you the one card that did get removed from the game is the Kraken. Doesn't do anything except give you a big 5 points and is hard to catch, but can be stolen with some of the abilities you saw in the game. But looking at this game, first off, look at this guy, Frod. I love the way he looks. Super goofy, but super, super cool. If you don't already know, this is a companion game to Deep Regrets, which does have the same artwork, and I have to say, I continue to love the art in this game and that game. Super, super awesome, colorful, poppy, weird looking, but weird in a very cool way, artwork of all of these crazy sea creatures. Big, big fan of the artwork in this game. Looking at the wallet as I normally do, I don't have it in front of me, but I do have this picture that you can take a look at. Again, I like the font used here. It's cool how the sort of tentacles extend from some of the letters, the S and the R at the bottom row. Shallow at the top shows a little bit of water sort of showing you that shallow idea. The color of the wallet is cool. I do wish there was one more something non-text on the front, but you know, this is sort of button shy and this is how it looks. It looks nice. It just doesn't quite pull in the art that you see on all of the cards, which is not unfortunate because it is what it is and it is a button shy wallet. I don't mind the wallet. It looks nice, but it's not quite as eye-catching as the cards themselves, but that is to be expected based on the amazing artwork on the cards. Again, fan of the wallet, not my favorite wallet, but it does look really cool, and I do love the way that the sort of fonts or word art ties into the theme of the game. That's basically all I have to say for the components. Maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that playthrough. Now, before I get into anything, I do want to point out up top that I have not yet had a chance to play Deep Regret, so there won't be any comparison happening in this video between sort of this game and its sort of parent or brother game in any kind of way. But with that said, let's get into my thoughts on this game. So at its core, this is a sort of card drafting game. In the intro, I said a semi-open card drafting game because this is not a sort of play a card and pass your hand, play a card and pass your hand, closed drafting game. It is a drafting cards from the table kind of game, except in this case, they are not open information because everything is placed face down on the table. So basically in this game, there is a grid of 6 stacks of cards. In this case, because it's an 18 card game, 6 stacks of 3 cards. And at the bottom of each, sort of the back of each of those cards is a value, either 0, 1 to 2, or 3 to 5. And that's sort of going to be the size of the fish or the thing that you're going to be capturing. I say thing because a lot of these are sort of strange, Lovecraftian horrors. You might find a foot, you might find some stuff that isn't necessarily a fish. But anyway, these values basically represent the size or the difficulty of catching that thing. And in order to catch anything, you need to have a sort of value of hooks on cards that you've already collected equal to or greater than the sort of strength value or difficulty value of that card that you're trying to draft. But the thing is here, you don't have perfect information about what that difficulty level is going to be. Because as I mentioned, there are 3 sort of sizes of card, 0, 1 to 2, and 3 to 5, which could mean that when you try to take a 1 to 2 card, If it has a value of 2 but you're only able to catch a 1, well, you're going to have to throw that one back. Likewise for the 3 to 5, if I have a 3 or a 4 but I pull a fish that requires a 5, well, then I can't catch that fish. So there is this level of push your luck to the game. And the way that it's going to work is on your turn, you're going to choose 2 of the stacks to look at the top card. And from the 2 that you've looked at, you're going to choose one to take into your sort of player tableau, and the other will get thrown back. Adding it to your tableau just means it adds to your collection. Fish or things that you've caught. And throwing it back means that if there are any empty locations in that sort of 6-card grid, it will go into one of those empty spaces of your choice if there are more than one. Otherwise, you are going to cover a card at the top of one of the other stacks, but you can never cover these small fish, these 0 valued fish, because if those are there, they sort of need to always be there in case somebody doesn't have any sort of hook strength to be able to catch the bigger stuff. So anyway, you are then drafting that card into your tableau for sort of 2.5 reasons. The first reason is the main reason of the game, which is to score points. Everything that you're catching has a value somewhere between, I believe, -1 and 5 points. And at the end of the game, you're simply going to add up all the points on the cards that you've collected to score points. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game will be the winner. Except that there are sort of 2 different types of cards. There are sort of normal, regular old fish that you're catching, and then there are these sort of perverted, weird, Cthulhu-esque, Lovecraftian horror type creatures that you're also collecting. I believe they're called fair and foul. Fair might not be the right word, but the point is you're collecting these good fish and these not so great fish. And in addition to that main scoring, whoever has the most of those foul things at the end of the game will score an additional -2 points on your score. Now in the solo mode that works slightly differently because the sort of enemy that you're fighting against isn't really bothered by those foul creatures. So if you've got the most, you will lose the 2 points, but if you're playing against the AI and they get the most, they just don't do anything. You don't lose the 2, but they still don't lose the 2. It just means you haven't personally lost that 2 points. So again, you're drafting fish for those scores and for that sort of majority score, negative score for having the most of those foul creatures having been caught into your tableau. The other reason though that you're doing this is sort of the other sort of main mechanism that's happening in this game, and that is that the majority of these things that you're catching have some kind of one-use action or ability on them. And once they're in your tableau at the start of your turn, before you try and catch something new, you are allowed to activate cards by rotating them 90 degrees, triggering whatever the ability on that card is. And sometimes it's swapping a card with an opponent. Sometimes it's simply giving a card to your opponent. Sometimes it's taking a peek at some of the top cards before taking your turn so you have some more information about what's coming out. Sometimes it's about blocking the opponent from being able to do anything negative to you, and so on. So many of these different fish have different abilities. And there's actually one more reason that I sort of talked about already, but should talk about now, is that the different things you're catching have different numbers of hooks on them. And remember, the number of hooks you have showing in your tableau, either activated or not activated, because the cards all count as cards in any state in your tableau. That number of hooks is going to be the sort of strength you have to go and catch more and more difficult stuff. So you're sort of drafting these cards to score the most points, to get these sort of special abilities that are going to help you score even more points or mess up your opponent's scoring of points in some way. And then also collecting those hooks so that you can start catching the bigger things, because the bigger things will have more points, will have stronger abilities, and so on. So you're trying to collect as many things as possible that have good points, trying to catch as few foul creatures as possible, trying to sort of build up to stronger strengths as quickly as possible so that you can catch more sort of point scoring things as quickly as possible moving through the game. And again, at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. And I did mention it a little bit, but now that you sort of understand how the game works, I should point out that on your turn, again, you're drawing 2 cards, keeping one, and returning that card. And in the case that there is an empty space, that card returns to the empty space, but otherwise you're going to select where to place it, which means you do have some kind of control over what's covered. And there is a small bit of a sort of memory game trying to remember where the things are that you've returned. Though I should point out there are some abilities that will take all of the cards, shuffle them, and put them back out into new stacks. So that's not always going to be perfect information in future turns. But also there is that big aspect of push your luck, because again, aside from those 0 level cards, you're never quite sure what the value of the thing is going to be, and you're not going to know if it's foul or not foul. You're not going to know if it's positive points or negative points until you've drawn the cards from that sort of 6-card grid. And what that means is you're always sort of hoping that the thing that you're choosing is going to be the thing that's good for you. But I'd say 7 times out of 10, that's probably not going to happen. So there is a lot of sort of tactical mitigation of the negative stuff that you're getting, finding ways to get rid of it, finding ways to swap things, finding ways to sort of overcome your negatives in later half of the game. So there is quite a bit of push your luck, but through those abilities on the cards, there is also quite a bit of mitigation possible to sort of work against the negatives that are hitting you along the way. So having said all of that, how do I feel about the game? Well, I'm going to talk about the AI in just a second, because that is the only way I've played the game so far, so it will be very important for me to talk about it. But I am going to say that this game for me, unfortunately, is sort of middling. I do enjoy every play that I've played. I do think there are some interesting things done here sort of with card drafting that I haven't really seen before, as I call it a sort of semi-open draft. I don't think I've ever played a card drafting game where I'm drafting open cards in the market, but only with limited information as to what that card might be before I start my draft. And I think that's a really interesting, cool twist on card drafting. And I do really enjoy this sort of idea of using abilities to cause different things to happen and sort of mitigate your luck in different ways. And all of the sort of mechanisms that are in this game are interesting and fun and work very well, but ultimately it's just not that exciting. But let me talk about the solo mode first, because as I said, I have only played this solo, and I do suspect that it would be quite a bit more interesting multiplayer. So let me talk about the solo first, why it sort of feels not as great, and why I suspect multiplayer might be a bit better. So in the solo mode, you're playing against the AI Frod, who's this sort of Lovecraftian frogman, and they are basically playing the same game you are, except they can't really make good decisions. So at the start of every turn, they're going to look at the card that they played in the previous round. So in the first round, there won't be one, but from that point on their cards, they will have a unique ability, which means they are never using the ability printed on the fish cards that they are catching. But they will have to have a card available to them that can be rotated in order to use that ability. So if they have drafted a card that has no ability printed on it, in their next turn, they will not be able to use an ability because they don't have the ability to trigger one. But assuming they do, because most of the fish cards do, they have unique abilities that interact with you in some way. Sometimes you have to give them a card or throw one back. Sometimes it blocks you from activating a card on your turn. Sometimes it blocks you from catching the fair fish. Sometimes it blows up the grid, means it makes everything get reshuffled. Sometimes it forces you to choose a pile of cards, give one to the AI, and throw the rest of them out of the game. There's a lot of sort of unique abilities for the AI that come out on that stack of AI cards, which I believe is a 6-card deck. But then after that, you're going to turn over the next card in the AI deck, and it's going to show you sort of a layout of that grid, telling you where to start, and then moving clockwise around that grid, they're going to catch the first fish that has a value equal to or less than the hooked value that they currently have. Now, because all of the cards are face down, they value everything by the lower value, which means that if it is a 4 or a 5 value fish and they only have 3 hooks, they will be able to take that card because, according to sort of their algorithm brain, that is a 3 and not a 5. Because if it had been a 5, they'd sort of never take anything until the very end of the game. So there's a reason for that, but they will draft the very first card from that starting point where the card tells them to start, moving clockwise, the highest valued card that they are able to take at that time. And then after they've drafted one card to sort of represent the throwing back effect of a regular multiplayer game, they'll go back to that starting location, finding the first sort of pile of cards that has at least 2 cards in it, starting from that location, moving clockwise. They will take that card and move it to the next open space clockwise, or if there are no open spaces, simply move it to the next space, which means they could potentially, based on their rules, cover one of those 0 cards that you're not normally able to cover in a normal multiplayer game. So they are kind of breaking the rules in 2 different ways, meaning that they can cover 0 cards when they're moving cards around in the grid, and that they will be drafting cards of a value higher than they should actually be able to do based on the sort of logic that they're using to select cards. But otherwise the game plays out the same way. You use abilities to interact with them, they use their special abilities to interact with you, and that's sort of how the game works. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner, remembering the AI doesn't take that -2 point hit for having the most foul stuff. So for me, I say it's just sort of okay experience, partially because, as I said, the AI is cheating a little bit. And what that means is they may end up with that 5-point fish, which is their only one of in the game. It does take a strength 5 to catch it, but they can catch that with a 3, which means if I don't have the ability to somehow swap that out, or that I've sort of stocked up on a bunch of other stuff first, they're going to take that and they're going to score a ton of points off of it. They can collect foul fish and not lose those points at the end of the game, which is also pretty big. And it just kind of feels like I take what I can take, they take what they can take, and the game kind of plays out on its own, which is not 100% true because, again, with the abilities that I'm drafting, I do have the ability to sort of manipulate some of the luck. And I am always drawing 2 cards and choosing one of them, so I do always have some control over what I'm doing. I can feed bad cards to them, I can keep good cards for myself, sometimes I can swap things and steal cards from them, and so on. But I feel like because of the differences in abilities and the slight differences in the way the game plays, that in the multiplayer game with more back and forth attacky kind of stuff going on, and more sort of intelligent choices about what's being placed and what's being taken, and also that they're pushing their luck and not just taking a card, I feel like the multiplayer would be more meaningful and more exciting and more interesting than the solo mode is. That being said, I have enjoyed every play that I played. The one that I recorded on this video for you was a very close call and probably the most fun I had playing this game, so I'm glad that I got that on camera. But I don't know. To me, the solo feels a little bit the same every time. If I play with rules as written, I still haven't lost, although I've come very, very, very close to losing. If I kick up the difficulty I showed you in the video, there are a few switches you can switch to make things slightly more difficult. I haven't played with all of them, but I have specifically tried the sort of switch that makes Frod go first rather than second in the first round. And every time I've played with them going first, I've lost by quite a bit. So that is definitely a difficulty switch, but I'm not sure that with the randomness in this game that those difficulty switches really work in the way that they should instead of just making the game really hard to win. I'm of mixed minds in this. I think the design is very clever. I think the game plays very well. I've enjoyed every play that I've played, but it's just not exciting to me, and it does start to feel a little bit samey. Now, all of that having been said, Button Shy tends to release other expansions, and I know for sure there's at least one planned expansion that should be part of this Kickstarter campaign that I'm hoping adds in enough extra cards of different abilities and different scoring and so on that does make the solo game more fresh. I think the sort of limited number of cards for the solo mode does sort of start to make it feel a little samey and does start to make it feel like I have less choices than I would like to have. Whereas in the multiplayer game, you're sort of fighting each other over the same abilities. In the solo mode, that doesn't happen. So I suspect that with some more cards and maybe one more some kind of twist to the game, this could be really, really good solo. It does play well solo, it just doesn't excite me all that much solo. So for me, it's a bit of a middling experience, but I think there are some people out there who would really, really enjoy this game, and I do hope that my playthrough stands as well as my thoughts on the game, so that if this does look like something you'd be interested in, particularly if you're looking at this as multiplayer and solo, I would still definitely recommend checking this out, because as I mentioned, it is an interesting design, and I do have quite a bit of fun with my plays of it. The link to the Kickstarter campaign is down below in the description of this video, and as this goes live, the campaign will be launching tomorrow, so definitely head over and take a look if this seems like something you'd be interested in. I hope that this video is helpful for you. As always, if it was, I do ask that you remember to please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.